This is the adult themes in Star Wars panel, and we have no moderator. We have no format, we have no context. What we do have is an audience full of perverts. And a panel likewise. So we're going to do the ancient tradition of introducing ourselves and then pretty much just, I think, throw open the field to embarrassing questions.
It is your panel. You are the moderators.
The inmates are in charge of the asylum tonight.
That's right. And there's quite a few out there.
Is there anyone in the room under the age of 18 and easily impressionable or offended?
I'm easily impressionable.
But not under 18.
Not kidding.
If you're easily impressionable, please come up to the front. We want to impress upon you as much as humanly possible.
We are ready to corrupt you now.
I will try that.
Shall we start during or?
That one is for me.
Go ahead.
Okay. My name is Allston. I'm a novelist. I'm currently writing in the Star Wars Fate of the Jedi series, and working on my 11th book for Star Wars.
I'm Shaun Rosado. I'm just a fan, pretty much like you guys, except I got the reputation as the Ewoks Eat People guy, if anybody knows that story.
Awesome.
I'm Chris Honeywell. I'm the co-host of Two True Freaks, a podcast where we talk about Star Wars and talk until our eyes bleed, your ears bleed.
They just needed a drunk guy. No, I'm his co-host. My name is Scott Gardner. I'm the co-host of Two True Freaks podcast as well.
Okay, well, that's our panel. Thanks for coming.
Barry White was supposed to be on this panel, and I'm very disappointed that he didn't show up. We really needed that element.
So anyway, y'all are pretty much going to define this discussion for us, so why don't we just take questions and see how we can conduct them.
Got one right over here in the corner.
He said Barry White.
No. Okay, we were trying to think of stuff, but where is LGBT in Star Wars?
Everywhere.
Oh, yeah. Help me.
Well, who wants to tackle it first?
Well,
so to speak.
I'll give you my impression of the answer, and it's not an official Del Rey or Bantam or Lucasfilm answer, but we have to remember that the companies who put out Star Wars and all its various manifestations are trying to keep it accessible to kids, and so this kind of limits the themes that they want to explore sometimes. Also, for those of us who write in the universe, I'm about as gay friendly as a clueless straight can be. But I'm also steeped very heavily in the pulp magazines and the Republic serials that were one of the constituent inspirations for Star Wars. And when you put yourself in that mindset to recapture that flavor, you actually kind of plunge yourself into an innocent sexuality and pretty much a homogenized American white sexuality. And it doesn't necessarily even occur to me to explore other themes while I'm working on a straightforward Star Wars book.
So to speak.
That's not, I said straightforward,
right.
Not straight. So that's not really an innovation, but an admission to a limitation on my part as a writer, I think.
Right. I mean, as a fan point of view, I've always looked at Star Wars as kind of being something that, especially if you're just looking at the movies, there was really no time to go into people's sexuality unless it directly contributed to the theme narrative. You only really see like a handful of straight people. Han and Leia are at least somewhat straight. They might be bi, they might do stuff, they might swing, but but for the most part,
Luke and Leia that swing.
Right, but we know that they're straight for the most part. That
we'll come back
across the chasm, the yawning chasm.
Yeah, that Boba Fett is at least somewhat interested in women because of his little scene with the one slave girl in Jabba's palace, and we were assuming that Jabba's straight.
Well, wouldn't that be technically bestiality on Jabba's part?
Right, some kind of weird thing, but I mean, in general. But in general, it doesn't come out all that often, about sexuality. Now, I would say, right, in the EU, I would say that you could probably get into it a little bit more if it was crucial to the narrative.
And appropriately, Karen Travis did to a certain extent in one of her books. Yeah. She established that some of her Mandalorian characters were a gay couple.
Right. But there is actually one gay that I would love to talk about for a second, which is Zero the Hutt.
That I was just gonna get to
And
that.
he may technically, or she may technically not have gender, but dude, you're not that flaming without being flaming. And that is like the most awesome thing to ever happen in Star Wars for the longest time. Purple, wears a feather boa, talks in like the most awesome
Truman
southern,
Capote,
just
yeah.
hello. Oh my god, I want like a 0 hour like every week. Just him taking questions from people. Go ahead, ask me whatever you want, and I will watch that show all the time.
We know that prior to Zero the Hutt, my partner actually got immortalized as the first gay action figure.
See, done, awesome.
Another question? Right here.
Okay, I can understand keeping it kid friendly and getting Return of the Jedi. You got Slave Leia hooked up to Jabba with a little BDSM going on there.
Sure.
Yeah, it's out there blatantly.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's saying that there's not sexuality in Star Wars. They're just trying not to say, okay, you're gay, you're straight. Because, I mean, think about it. If you're trying to do that, especially after 30 years of narrative, what you're doing, if you're just saying, okay, we're going to make a gay Star Wars book now, or a gay Star Wars episode, what you're doing is you're just trying to placate to that particular audience. And that would feel like something that's forced. You know, as a person who likes a lot of gay and transgender and straight and bisexual material, I would rather see it happen naturally, something that falls into the narrative and makes sense for it to be there, rather than somebody say, hey, we've done, 47 episodes, we need a gay. And then just shoehorn a gay character in. I would rather see it happen naturally. Like if you knew that all of a sudden, I don't know, Lando, yeah, he talks a big game, but behind the scenes,
It's the
him and Moana hooking up, it becomes something that you need to know about. Okay.
Well, he and Han Solo had some sort of history.
Right. I mean, that's okay.
Or was they falling out?
Yes, that's right.
I have to point out, and to argue the other side of the coin for just a second, and it's not a side of the coin I'm on really, but as friendly as this crowd right here is to gay and lesbian themes, I do get email from time to time from Star Wars fans who say, oh, for God's sake, please keep homosexuals out of Star Wars. Now, I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for their position, but the fact is there are a lot of them out there and they have that position. What do? Do we just ignore this whole branch of the audience? If it were up to me, I might say yes, but it's not.
And I've always kind of taken the point of view that there are gays in Star Wars, and we know a lot of them, but we just never actually tackle the subject because it's not there. Like Obi-Wan, I'm kind of on the fence on Obi-Wan. I think he might be a little gay.
He's gay.
And I'm totally okay with that because Obi-Wan's hot. Right. I mean, I'm totally cool with that.
Well, this is, it's different too, where this is a universe at war, where there's a lot of times there's not the time to explore that as much, where, say, something like Star Trek, there's a lot of downtime, something's not happening, you can talk about that.
Yeah, it's one battle scene to the next.
Right, exactly.
Now, the last time I went into the Presidio for a story conference for the novels, I walked in and they had the conference table set up with people sitting around waiting for the conference to start, and said, I want to pitch a new series, Tatooine Nights, when the suns go down and there's nothing else to do. I got a laugh there, but it didn't get bought.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. Barry White, host of Tatooine Tonight. Put the kids to bed and turn out the light.
For some reason, that sounds like a Star Wars themed version of Oz.
Right.
Another question?
We have...
Okay.
I just want to go back to, you said that it would be forced to, introduce a gay episode.
Well, depending on how they do it.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, someone has to make the decision to have a straight relationship.
True.
To write a straight, so I don't see why it would be forced to happen to, obviously it depends how it's written.
At the risk of inviting vegetables to be thrown at me, I think that's kind of the default position, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Yeah, and just
The
in general,
default setting,
in pop
so to
culture
speak.
in general.
It's not so much, you said that they make a decision to go with the straight. I don't know that it's so much a decision as that's what people make.
It's not
Exactly. It's
necessarily
unconscious.
It's
Yeah,
not
thank you.
necessarily a decision. If I can address that for a second, when I'm creating characters, I don't just look at them and say, well, this character is straight. Generally the characters are sort of gender neutral because their roles don't demand an exploration of their being straight or gay.
Right.
And so, to create a gay character, just deliberately to have a gay character, I have to look at somebody who, unless they appeared in my head in the creation process as gay, I would have to arbitrarily decide this is a gay character and this is a gay character, and we're going to hook them up and we're going to explore this relationship just so we can. And that's what's forced.
Right. I mean, and it has to be something natural. And the worst thing you can ever do is to try to write something and say, okay, I'm going to try to make it feel like it's a gay story. You go like, okay, I want to make them gay. If it happens naturally, you're like, okay, I'm telling the story and these two people happen to fall in love, like Carrie and Travis did with the whole Republic Commandos, then okay, that makes sense. But if you're like, we got to make the gay episode.
The Commandos, that adds a whole new level.
You know, all of a sudden that dancing around, kind of all oiled up Spartan style, you're like, wait a minute. You're like, where's that movie?
Well, you know, Star Trek was a sort of show that, not to cross the streams or anything, but that was a show that was, you know, they would tackle social issues. Star Wars, when they put a social issue in, they just sort of maybe sneak a little reference in here and there. So I don't think they're thinking. Yeah, I don't think they're thinking about trying to be like, you know, there's been little references to, say, the Gulf War and stuff like that, but it's just sort of stuck in the side, maybe a line or two here.
I know, but I'm just saying that a lot of the straight relationships that come in, I mean, a lot of them are just natural, and that's fine. But some of them do seem like someone's arbitrarily decided, oh, I want this character needs to be with this character, and they write it.
Anakin and Padme.
Yeah, exactly.
What?
Well, they needed babies in that part,
right,
so you know, I mean, if they wanted to get into the whole test tube or in vitro like that,
I mean,
it
I just
would
think it obviously it depends who's writing it, and a lot of the people that are writing Star Wars are, no offense, they're all straight white males.
Right. Well, that's
it's notable that it was a female who's written the only canon gay character.
Yeah, but there are plenty of female writers in the universe who haven't, so it's not like it's a universal thing.
There haven't been for a while, though. The New Jedi Order was, 2 female writers?
Well, Elaine Cunningham was contracted to do a novel recently, but it
fell through. We have all kinds of complaints about that.
Yeah. Your arm's got to be getting tired, dude.
Yeah. What's wrong with writing some of the books for a more of an adult audience instead of just doing all for children and...
I don't know. Are you reading? Right now I'm reading Order 66, and I think that's a fairly adult book.
I mean, I think they cover the gamut, but I think in general they try to make it like a PG-13 audience, and
just in general, yeah, just so everybody can and they know, you know, kids are going to want to watch Star Wars, any kind of Star Wars they get. And that's the weird thing about our society, too. It's like, let's keep that away from the kids. You know,
adult in what context were you
just look at a lot of books I've read. It's more of a kid or something you read like in middle school style writing instead of...
Dumbed down, you mean? Or just, safe?
Both.
I would say safe, but I'd argue the dumbed down. I don't know. I think there's some meat in there. I can't see a kid reading Order 66 because it's chock full of a lot of issues and a lot of meat. At least I'm finding it that way. Anyway.
Chock full of a lot of meat.
Yeah. I mean, and this is really trying to say, okay, why is this fish this color and why is this fish that color? Each writer brings their own thing to the Star Wars universe, and unless somebody lays out a mandate, make a gay book, make a gay episode, you're probably not going to see it unless somebody has the brilliant idea while they're writing and says, hey, maybe we should introduce a little sexuality. But again, I go back to the main topic, which is that Star Wars does not focus on sexuality. It focuses on this epic conflict between good and evil. And sexuality, while very interesting in fleshing out characters, is not crucial to what they're trying to convey. You want to see stuff blow up. You want to see cool lightsaber fights. You want to see awesome ships. You don't want to see 2 penises. But I mean, sorry, that's really, you don't want to see 2 penises.
Although in some of the aliens, we may have just not known it.
And then I think she very specifically wants to. But in general, they don't want to go into the refresher with them. No, nobody go into the refresher. That's when they refresh.
There are no bathrooms.
Right. Well, there's the refresher.
But the sad thing about this whole situation is I get the occasional email from a gay or lesbian fan who says, well, we need heroes too that we can identify with.
Absolutely.
And so far they're not getting them, and perhaps someday they will. But at the moment, I don't think there is a preponderance of or a push for that in the Star Wars universe.
I think society has to sort of push forward. When society pushes forward, then it's working naturally.
We are a messed up culture where violence is okay and sex is not.
Right. Well, not to mention the fact that even if you say sex is okay, so many people in this country are so anti-gay. Ooh, the gay's going to get you if it's more prominent in culture.
I have a question that is not gay or lesbian related.
Gasp.
Well,
there we go.
Well, mine is just going the opposite way. Obviously, I'm at this panel and I let my kids watch Star Wars, and they're basically 7 and 5. But my 7-year-old comes up and says, one doesn't like the kissing scenes, but the reason they like it, they're both boys, is because it's violent.
Right. Exactly.
I didn't tell them that. They came up with that.
Yeah.
Versus other things to choose. I mean, so, you know, the whole, I mean, they're selling violence too in one sense.
Right.
You know?
Absolutely they are.
You know, just like, I mean, you kind of made that comment already. But.
Yeah, and I mean, and that's unfortunately what young males who are kind of hitting that puberty age usually go for. I mean, I know I did as a kid. You know, my parents were smart enough to say, look, just because you like to see things blow up, that's not life. That's fiction. And yeah, I was 30 and I still do. Something blows up, I go, ooh, pretty. You know,
that's Star Wars is filling
right.
that.
But on the flip side of that, I get in touch with my inner gay and I watch lots of stuff that, you know, most guys are like, oh, I'd never watch that. I'm like, ooh, Chocolate's on. And I get really happy about it, you know, and that's fine, and I'm okay with that, you know. So I think it's about how you're raised and how it shows you. And until more people are okay with letting individuals discover their own sexuality, bar whatever your culture or your family say, it'll be a difficult thing to get into mainstream media. Now you'll get some people like Joss Whedon. That man throws gays in everything. And I love watching his stuff because they always seem like fleshed out characters. Yeah. And that's what you want. You want fleshed out characters who naturally evolve that way. You just don't want them to be shoehorned in. And this guy's had his hand up for a while.
Yeah. I'm supposing that one of the big problems, especially in novelizations, is trying to address the spectrum. Now that we have multiple generations who are fans of the genre, you have to deal with both the young adult demographic, as well as those who are actually college age versus older, and
right.
And that probably does complicate things a little bit.
It's a tightrope act. It really is.
Maybe they should come out with just a pure adult line.
Well, not only.
Well, that's slash fiction.
Yeah.
There's a problem though with coming out with a pure adult line. I mean, there are people out there who are simply too unobservant for that to work. Mm-hmm. I can't tell you how many people I've met who took their kids to Ralph Bakshi movies in the 70s because they were cartoons.
Ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, hey.
And these people will be buying the super adult Star Wars books for their kids because it's Star Wars.
Yeah. Right. And that is something that you have to deal with, is that Star Wars has been aimed at kids for the last 30 years, and if you start to split it off.
The back's been, you back there, you've had your head up for a while.
It's character.
Feeling bad for you.
Good arm muscles.
I want to turn the subject in one of my interests. You know, Twilight's are sex-led, so why haven't we seen a 12 Twilight bundle of one of each color? Since, I mean, we've seen quite a few things about Twilight. I mean,
I've seen some fan art on the internets.
I'm assuming when you say a bundle, you won't basically like 12 3 3/4 all with little bikinis on? Is what you're kind of feeling? Or?
I'm talking about in the stories.
In the stories in general. Well, I mean, you got Isla Sakura running around half naked all the time in the Star Wars, in the Jedi Order. I mean, seriously, she walks around the temple and she's half naked, and nobody like bats an eyeball. Everybody else is in like 15 layers of cloth, and there's this chick with like 4 spaghetti straps across her breast and like, you know, a little thong, and her hair's her tail, her leku are tied up, and that's it. And,
Isn't that conservative for their standards?
Well, I suppose.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Different culture, different standards.
Right, different culture, different standards. Dude.
What we also have to remember is that the Star Wars universe is multi-generational.
Mm-hmm.
So 90% of the relationships that are developed are to create the next generation, or to create the angst that allows the relationship that creates the next generation.
So only straights can have the next generation, no gays can adopt.
That it's easier to write that for straights than it is.
Well, I'm just taking devil's advocate on that one. I mean,
I'd like to change the subject to the hottest Star Wars of all, which is the Star Wars Christmas special.
Oh, B. Arthur.
We're not even talking B. Arthur. We're talking about Chewie's wife, Mala.
Oh, nice.
In the kitchen, completely naked, only wearing an apron.
There you go.
That's hot. And Grandpa Itchy watching Bad Starship. Someone kill me now. That was a dirty old Wookiee. That was pretty edgy for.
So you want some Wookiee nookie, do you?
Yeah, exactly, yes. I'm saying, naked in an apron, I like it.
That's how the Wookiees roll,
whatever,
man.
that's.
if you manage to see the version that was aired here, I actually brought that DVD in, and there are more copies of that available. It was from somebody who works in a Des Moines TV station who found it on an old U-matic tape just sitting in the back of the storage room. And
like dust that off gold.
And,
I've been waiting to see that one in high quality. It's
like the 15th generation bootleg where it's like the color keeps going in and out. You're like, I almost see a Wookiee nipple.
Is it?
this actually broadcast direct to tape.
Right.
It was stored for
It was stored on one of those old Betamax.
U-matic.
Okay, right.
Predated Betamax. But extra copies are available. So
cool.
You can come and ask me and let me know.
That's hot. Maybe with 2 T's.
Yeah, the holiday special does bring new meaning to the phrase self-abuse.
Yes.
Okay, my question was going back to keeping things PG-13 for the kiddies.
Whoops.
Then what happens when you get books like The Dark Nest with Troy Denning, where you've got a drug sex cult run by bugs?
We call that primetime TV.
Yeah, exactly.
It gives us like 20 new words, an alternate way to say fuck in Star Wars. Like, yeah or no? Or is that not counted as part of the... Do they expect kids not to read that?
You see, you're talking to a guy who wants more of that, so I'm like, yay.
I support that, but it's like, you get the argument, you're like, oh no, we must keep it...
Part of the situation here is that writers inevitably push against the boundary.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get caught and reined in, and sometimes not. When I was writing the Raid Squadron novels in the late '90s, I kept getting caught. You know, I'd have a steamier scene, and they'd say, "No, these for children must not," and so the scene would be trimmed back. Troy pushed the boundaries and got away with it, and that might be a sign that things are changing, and it might be just a sign that when people start thinking bug sex, they don't want to look too closely, and you get away with more.
Right. Yeah. Right. And be happy that George Lucas is based in San Francisco. That's going to help out a lot in the long run. So, you know.
I'd be interested to hear from somebody who was, around like 12, 13, 14, 15, like a teenager when Return of the Jedi came out and got a chance to see it in theaters.
That's us.
Like what
it helped me with puberty. It did.
Yeah, did that turn a
Slave
switch?
Leia was an important part of my puberty.
Kept going back to the theater and back to the theater and back to the theater, thinking, "Damn it, I'm gonna see underneath that thing eventually."
Right.
There's that one shot, man.
To the theater, if I sit to the
like
right
on the
of
left
the theater,
side,
eventually I'm gonna be able to see up that damn thing when she swings across.
Yeah, we were best friends in high school, and as soon as VCRs came out, we were just like, I know it's there.
You guys are children. Emma Peel rules.
That's true. Yeah, that cat suit from the Avengers, man. That's nice.
Yeah, but Jedi is when everything started splitting apart. Either you were following Leia, or you were following Han, or you were following Darth Vader for a completely different reason.
Well, I mean, if you really want to get into just really weird imagery and Return of the Jedi, I mean, you can say Leia had a very interesting thing, but like the ladies, I mean, you have those phallic tentacles coming out of the Sarlacc, I mean, and they're grabbing people by the legs, inching up towards their thigh. You're like, what the hell is that?
There's some vagina dentata going on there big time.
The Sarlacc itself is just both in one saying, come get me. Great, now I'm going to be known as the Sarlacc guy.
The Sarlacc eats people guy.
Yeah, the Sarlacc eats people, and maybe does something else that we just don't want to know about guy.
You look like you have a particularly perverted and twisted question.
Yeah, speaking of Jedi nipple, all these re-releases of Star Wars, was it intentional to leave Ula's nipple exposed in every one of those releases?
George Lucas needs to have fun too.
I'm gonna have to go back over my DVD and check that.
Okay, who has the copy of the DVD here right now? We'll pop it in. Frame by frame. There, nipple.
It's there, plain as day.
The whole breast pops out.
She's struggling with Java just before she falls down.
Yep.
Dude, I watched this last week. How did I miss this?
Yeah, exactly.
You've never seen that?
Seriously?
She slips right out.
Oh, see, that guy's hands up. Yeah, we saw the breast.
Absolutely. I'm a frame by framer, man. I know it.
No, we'll see, whenever I heard this, I naturally popped in Star Wars and went frame by frame.
Right.
I didn't see anything.
You didn't see anything. So on your edition, so it might just be that you're that lucky. Like you got one of those copies.
I did take another new version.
The special edition, wink wink, only in Ohio.
Interlaced, non-interlaced.
It's the Laserdisc version.
All right, okay.
Yeah, I'm just going to continue on the theme because my favorite episode, if we're going to do a frame by frame, is when Padme runs off the gunship, on the platform to go get Anakin after he's been basically taken apart by Count Dooku. There's a lot of bunga kind of going on. and that white uniform doesn't appear that there's any.
So many ideas for the way they form those things are like right at the right spots. The first time I watched that movie, I was, what? What's going on with that? So yeah, there's something that was one for Dad right there.
Anyone see what I'm seeing on
publicity
that?
photos, you can see it.
What's that?
In the publicity photos, you can see it, but not in the movie stills.
Yeah, stupid island.
There's
a nipple, erase it. Too much technology, wrong power in the wrong hands.
I wanted to mention, also, when Han grabs Leia's boob in Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
And also, I'm
And
going
Empire.
back to the slave bikini. I think one of the greatest tragedies of that movie was that Han was blind during...
He's just seen a blob. Do you like the outfit, honey? It's a blob. I'm going to go change stuff. No, wait.
So my question is that, if she still has it and is still working
she
at
does.
this point in the expanded universe, I mean, I'm just wondering if something, you gotta keep on.
Okay, come on, let's be fair. Why do you think they have twins? Okay, Han was very excited that night. She put it on. He was like, "Oh, mama," and that was it. Leave it on. Leave it on.
Carrie Fisher had a whole thing about how she had to get in shape because they were going to put her in that. I mean, I saw that documentary.
I mean, how mortified must she be?
Stressed out about that.
I had read somewhere too that she was like a total complete bitch to the stuntman that she had to deal with in that scene because of the outfit that she wore. He was like a total fanboy, like, I'm so honored to be here and touch, Carrie Fisher, and she was like, keep your distance and all this stuff. So there's something.
And isn't that a shame from the first Star Wars where she said they should have the costume contest or the contest every day for what Grip was going to take off the tape for her nipples, and then at the last movie, get the fuck away from me. So no kids, right? Okay, I might curse. I'm sorry if I did.
She was nobody but Debbie Reynolds' daughter at that point.
But imagine, from the first Star Wars, you're basically called a chubby, woman, and she wasn't chubby in the first Star Wars, and then in Return of the Jedi, she's got to get in that bikini, and they're like, okay, you got to slim down. It's like that woman, man.
By Return of the Jedi, I heard there was a lot of cocaine going on there, and that's a weight loss plan.
You guys are awesome, but I'm a little disappointed in the fact that we're a half hour into this and no one has brought up incest. Thank you, sir. I'm a firm believer that Luke got some of that.
There's something happened, yeah.
We didn't see it. We weren't privy to it, but it happened.
Yeah, Splinter of the Mind's Eye. He was doing the old. Yeah,
go ahead.
So Aaron, you're doing that book, right? Where they're going to flash back to that scene.
I don't care if I'm doing it. I just hope I'm being paid for it.
Okay, there you go. Coming soon, Aaron Allston's scene from Luke and Leia.
So much fanfic is going to result from tonight.
Yeah, that. I don't know. I mean, the incest thing. It's one of those. I see that scene. I'm just like, wow. Especially considering it's in the same movie where he finds out, more or less that obviously Lucas knew that they were brother and sister because they mentioned there's another in Empire Strikes Back, so he had probably already figured that little bit out. Yeah, and they're necking a lot. And maybe I don't know. Maybe that's how Lucas swings. Maybe he likes the sisters.
They're from the planet Alabama.
I don't know. That's one of those I just creatively edited out of my mind when I get to that scene. It's like delete.
Perhaps it's just homage to Robert Heinlein.
I think now we gotta talk about incest in the expanded universe and about Ben Skywalker's real father.
That's where we just go.
I'm sorry, I'm hewing to the official position on that one.
All right.
Yep.
Way back here.
Yeah. 9. That's a whole year, man. I don't know about you, but when I was 8, nothing. 9, boom. I mean, that personally. I know that's
well, he was a little kid, and he was already using the trite line, "Are you an angel?"
Right.
Come on.
You fell from heaven.
How old was Padme
13? 14. Yeah.
That's that very pickup line is what saved the universe eventually.
How sad is that
brought
line
balance to the course. So keep that in mind when you're out there tonight and there's a little drinking going on,
What kind
don't
of
hold back
skills
on
does
those
that
bad pickup lines. You never know what it might
I think that
result
the
in.
midichlorians give you pickup lines.
Yeah, they whisper them in your ear.
reaching back to the time of Shaft.
The M word.
So you're saying that midichlorians are an aphrodisiac?
Yes. You've seen Sam Jackson in that outfit. Don't tell me you didn't notice the
Frank
bowls.
Zappa's son, Dweezil, I saw him on a talk show once, and he did the most, I'm sort of addressing what this guy just said, he did a great impression of Yoda and Luke Skywalker having sex, and Yoda who's the Force?
Faster, slower.
No try.
That makes that scene where he's on Luke's back a completely different subject. Like he had to go clean off the mayonnaise afterwards and everything. I'm going to go into that swamp. I'm going to go into the swamp now and clean up. It really is creepy because it's a puppet. I'm not even going to say the next line of my thought. It's really bad.
I just want to say,
do you want me to say the next line? Right? Does he come foam?
I love it when the panel audience is passing the flask around. This is a start of something good. I can see no bad coming out of this.
Frank Oz is a pervert.
Hey, wait! I just remembered something. C-3PO and R2-D2, the gay robots. At least C-3PO.
True. And R2 has utility on there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got everything else, right?
The door opens up and the thing.
Yeah, exactly. It even rotates, And then there's an oil spill.
I just wondered if that flap in the front of Vader's costume did the same thing, just kind of flopped open and some sort of jack input thing came out of there. But.
See, and I was worried I was going to be saying too much. I thought I was going to go too far.
No, I think that's why it's a 10 o'clock one.
I'm not a huge fan of the Phantom Menace, but
I'm sorry to hear that. Are you overcompensating for that?
No. I never noticed any female Gungan. Are there, or are they all asexual?
Jesus Christ!
That's a good point. Yeah. We mostly saw Gungan armies, I think. So
who would mate with them?
Yeah, they don't show up in episode 1, but they are in the animated series a little bit.
Maybe their tails break off and grow into another Gungan. We didn't see any little kid Gungans either,
maybe they look exactly the same. I'm sure they're probably hatched from eggs or something.
No, the little kids are called young guns.
That's Planet Alabama again.
Wow.
There's your transgender race.
Well, when you live in a swamp, right?
All right, he's at least holding his hand up this time.
Sorry. Actually, Anthony Daniels did a nice little thing in the Behind the Magic, the really thick white volume, talking about Lucas's own perspective on the whole thing. When he was leaning up against his resting board, of course, because in the C-3PO suit he just could not sit down. And he was talking to Lucas about why the cod piece was so huge. And
it's a flip top.
And George's own response was that was a way to introduce space eroticism into it. And on top of that, he actually did direct Anthony Daniels to basically treat R2-D2 as part of a bickering couple.
Well, there we go.
Yeah. No
question?
Gay droids. Next on Zero's Midnight Hour.
Sick, twisted.
All right.
Question out there.
I see somebody's coming late, and you're going to spur a whole lot of horny jokes and.
Get all the way
now.
Okay, next question.
There's got to be just.
Nothing? It doesn't have to be about sexuality. It can be about extreme violence.
It can actually be about adult themes.
Go ahead, man.
Has it ever been stated that R2 is fact male?
He's asexual.
Yeah, they're asexual. They're droids. They're not
sexual. They're all referred to as he, I believe. But yeah.
He does have a little man inside him at all times.
Yeah,
The voice is female.
She was a female voice.
She looks female.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the designer of the whole, 3PO line was just, kind of gay and wanted to inject a little gayness into it. And he gave it a female option if that put people off. I don't know.
I expected a question like,
all the way in the back, the funny-looking guy in the back.
Now, since Anakin built 3PO, does that mean that he purposely designed a gay
You're a 9-year-old child. There are not that many humans around, and damn it, you need something to play with when you hit puberty. Yes.
That was his one toy, after all. Yeah.
He never had a strong father figure, and
oh, I'm a bad man.
R2D2 did exist before C3PO was built.
Well, that doesn't mean that C3PO was his first droid. I mean, R2 could have been a slut. We don't know.
After the memory wipes, who knows?
Yeah, I mean, he could have been going around to all the 3PO models, like, hey, come here. With the flip top. I mean, we don't know.
I remember you and I sitting around as kids, and we used to play these games, asking each other weird questions like that, and playing the game of, in Star Wars or whatever franchise or whatever, who would you do? And Star Wars came up, and I'm thinking, there's Leia, there's Aunt Beru. How the hell do you answer this question?
Yeah, especially when we look at the
why are there so few
options.
women in Star Wars? I've never understood that. I mean, there's the chick that says "stand by" before they shoot the ion cannon. Who the hell else do you see?
Well, it might even be. It almost sounds like a ship's computer too, Mon Mothma, yes. Well, Mon Mothma is a pretty strong character, actually. Yeah.
But, I kind of lean towards Mon Mothma being a little bit gay, too.
I always thought
she's got a little BR.
Yeah, but she's not say that by the haircut is what I was going to say. I won't get
she's a bit butch, yes.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing wrong with about drugs and gambling in Star Wars.
That's a good one.
Death sticks?
That's about.
Yeah.
Well, what's to say? I mean, there are drugs and gambling and stuff.
What else would you like to know? Give us a little bit more information, please.
Well, I mean, beyond
No, they have glitter stem. Right, there's glitter stem, death sticks, and there's something else too. It's like, there's spice, right? There's spice.
Slavery.
It wasn't
I
specified
mean,
how
obviously
you
they got a
took.
cantina as one of the
There
big
was some
things.
of the guys where you had to work.
So what goes
We
on?
can presume that there are lots of different types of drugs.
Yeah, what happens in Mos Eisley stays in Mos Eisley.
And I mean, as far as gambling goes, I mean, it's pretty clear that there's a lot of gambling going on. Obviously, Tatooine is rife with gambling, and we know that Han and Lando had the whole bit with the Millennium Falcon, and that's not the only bit of gambling Lando's ever done, we know. So, I mean, it's fairly safe to say that gambling in some way is sanctioned, obviously in the Empire's time, and most likely in the Republic's time, too.
And in the expanded universe, you have the whole Aaron Venture with a giant gambling casino in the sky.
Right, the Aaron
that was done in the Marvel series as well. They had the wheel, which actually helped finance the Empire in that series. Anyway, I don't know if that's considered canon, but it was basically that was part of the revenue to finance the fleet. Was that the Empire basically left that sector alone?
Basically,
it was like Las Vegas in space.
The comic strip and the Marvel comics the elements are considered canon if they're dragged into later stuff, but generally they're not regarded otherwise.
Well, I think that's kind of half-assing it myself. I think should have got off.
Well, we do drag stuff in. I mean, Lumia was from the comic books.
Right. Right. I love that stuff. I mean, I love that somebody like us that grew up on the stuff that loved it. Like, I've got a thing for Fen Shice. I think he's awesome. Nice to see him finally getting incorporated. So,
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay, Laura.
I think the Jedi kept concubines. What do you think about that?
Absolutely.
Something I did a long time
Something down
ago.
there with somebody, and if they weren't supposed to have attachment, they. I
don't see a celibate Samuel L. Jackson in any universe.
There's a little bit of a background history to this, which is that a long time ago when Episode 1 came out, the Star Wars role-playing game had just done that revised edition. I think actually it was Attack of the Clones, and I was playing with my friends, and they were all playing Jedi back like 3,000-4,000 years before Episode 1. And I came up with the idea that there has to be like a level on the Jedi Temple that's just all hot women, because the Jedi can't keep wives, and men, and they can't keep wives, they can't keep husbands, they can't keep whatever they consider their significant others, so they have to procreate somehow because they got to keep the line going. Now I know that the standard line is they go out in the universe and find, whoever's the next generation, but that wasn't always the case. The Jedi were kind of assholes way back in the day. They were really full of themselves. And I was like, what if you go far enough back, they actually were like, we need to keep women's on hand. Like, and so, like, if you did a good job of the day, oh, you meditated really well, go get your nut. You know? And, like, if that particular chick got pregnant, then you have the next line. And so, of course, the very first thing happens is that they all get promoted from Padawans to Knights, and they get a chance to go down to the level, and they all go, concubines! And ever since then, whenever, like, they come by, they have to yell at concubines. And I mean, it makes sense to me that at some point they probably did have their own brothel going on.
Yeah, let's touch on the attachment is what's forbidden. Getting some?
Said they're not celibate.
Right, I mean, they can't be celibate. You do not do that much action and testosterone fighting and not go off every once in a while and just...
blow off some steam, yeah.
Well, the classic definition of not married.
Six wives.
What's that?
While on Monday had 6 wives.
Yeah, the Kiadi Mundi comes from the Sarians, and they have a low birth rate, and so he was given special dispensation.
Right.
And how geeky am I that I can pull that right off the top of my head, right?
I don't know.
I mean, I pulled that right off.
I don't know what you're talking about when it touches a brother's heart.
Right, I mean, dude, this is so bad.
Naomi Sunrider was married to a Jedi. She picked up his lightsaber from seriously. She now has force powers and has a kid.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody says that the EU's consistent by any means. That's not it. We love it.
It's like absolutely no connection to the Force until Luke said, "You're my sister," and then if you look further into the books that Kevin J. Anderson wrote. Oh God! But what I wanted to say is, what really aggravates me is the people that hold the Jedi up as some monistic order.
Thank you, sir. I was coming to that eventually. Yes. This is something that came out. I don't know who here was in the Clone Wars panel this morning. Anybody? One guy.
Woman.
I didn't see her.
Guy, woman, guy.
This came up in that.
That's a movie
It was a fascinating topic, but we didn't want to get too far off from what was actually being covered there. This is the perfect panel for it, I think. Is the fact that, the Jedi are not as squeaky clean as...
Right, and that's what I was trying to say. Obi-Wan takes Luke for a drink at the cantina.
Mm-hmm.
And, Anakin and Obi-Wan go to the bar. And they're comfortable there. Everybody sees the Jedi and they're like, oh, it's a Jedi, no problem. It's not like a cop walks into a bar and everybody stops. Because cops don't walk into a bar on duty. They don't walk in there on uniform. The Jedi are always on duty, so it looks like it's kind of a common thing to see them go into a cantina. Why would they have to have concubines at the temple? They could go to a brothel on Coruscant and get it there. They may even get a group discount.
Okay, I'll do you one better, dude. I'll do you one better. I'm going to cut to the chase on the Jedi aren't so squeaky clean thing. Is that the Jedi ultimately are slave masters. The clones are the slaves of the Republic.
Right.
And the Republic is basically run, at least in the Clone Wars context, by the Jedi. I mean, they report to the Jedi.
Almost as
I
a default, yeah.
How the hell are they comfortable with
Well,
this?
they're not, and they've said that a lot, especially in the novels. They get real uncomfortable about controlling any of the clones. They're like, we do not like this whole, we have control of the clones. And some of them do it really well. And they're like, yeah, clones, and those are the ones who went dark. Because a lot of the Jedi went dark during that time.
But what is that?
Are we
matter
able to see that in the cartoon? No.
We'll deal with this when the war is over. That seems
basically that was it. It was totally messed up. I mean, the Jedi were never really that squeaky clean. I mean, those guys, they always had this really weird mentality of, okay, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. But let me start over. Because I totally lost my train of thought. But I like to go back to the Anakin thing for a second, which is that you have the idea that Anakin is supposed to be the chosen one, and he's being told by the Jedi, who are more or less these Buddhist monks, who are like, don't attach yourself to ego, don't do any of this stuff. You know, you're supposed to be this person who has no attachments to things. You're supposed to have complete love for all the world. You're not unique. You're not special. You're part of the Force in all things, but you're special. You're going to save the universe, and you're that awesome. He has these two conflicting things going on in his head, and the Jedi never say, hey, wait a minute, maybe we're really screwing this kid up. They're like, go do it.
Yeah.
And you got to work it out for yourself. I mean, so many Jedi fall to the wayside. You know, I can't believe how many Jedi are fallen, they say 21, that have actually left the Order. Is it 21 or 12 or 13?
Well, last time.
12? 12, 21? It's a low number. And I'm like, 25,000 years, 25 guys have left the Jedi Order. My ass.
Yeah.
All right, a lot of people have defected. Now, they might have gone dark and been killed before they technically left, but that's splitting hairs.
Maybe we're only
Please turn off your cell phone.
Yeah, and maybe they just cleanly walked away like, I'm still cool, I'm not crazy dark and completely nuts, and I'm just leaving. but obviously Dooku doesn't fit into that category.
I'm not dark. I'm goth.
Right. But I mean, the Jedi are not the squeaky clean people. They never really were. I think they tried to be. I think their goal was to be as peaceful and calm and serene as humanly possible.
There's an image to project, probably. I had a friend who was Buddhist, and she went to Japan to take a tour of all the Buddhist temples there.
Right.
And she was getting hit upon insanely by, she says, you can't have sex. And they were like, well, technically we can't have sex in a vagina. But there's other... Yeah.
Isn't that a great little ball lady?
Yeah, exactly.
Or man.
And it was a real eye-opener for...
But I mean, that's because they're mortal. I mean, you can, obviously they're not all human, but
does that bring up if you think about that Jedi being Buddhist? Then, if you think, the loophole of not eating a vagina to do that.
Pretty much the same as it means when they're Buddhists.
Well, it's just saying people will look for I know a religious guy who will say frack all the time.
Well, that's not against God.
Well, at the same time, I don't think you're fooling God, because he knows what frack means. I know I know that when he's saying fracking, it's fuck. And, okay, I got the technical, I've changed some letters, and you okay, God? Yeah, oh yeah, you changed some letters, it's all right.
We're going to go into Judeo-Christian real quick if we go down that line.
Okay. Profanity is not against Christianity.
What?
Profanity is not against Christianity.
Right. Well, the only real
Actually, we had
saying
this
Jesus
conversation earlier today.
Saying goddamn, lightning, no. All right. But besides that, you're pretty much on the safe. If you say shit and fuck, God don't care. They're words. They have nothing to do with him. They're shit and they're fuck. Now, the standard Judeo-Christian outset is don't curse, period, because one curse, it's like a gateway drug. One curse word will lead to the next one. And sooner or later you're going to say, is that not true? And no, actually, I very, very succinctly remember my parents telling me when I was young, don't use this, don't say that, because you sound ignorant. And I went out of my way to make sure that I could use fuck in the most eloquent way possible. So I would come up with these really extravagant sentences at 12 years old, and fuck would be right in the middle of it. Yeah, it's a compliment.
The linchpin that held it all together.
Okay, sir?
This is jumping back to the slavery thing. I was probably alone, maybe didn't look that deeply, but the episode that brought that out in the first season of the Clone Wars caught me by surprise when that clone was sabotaging everything, and it turned out that caught me by surprise because my impression that I got from Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith was more from background in military where the Jedi are at the top as generals, not as slave drivers or anything else. And that was solely done not because they were created first or they ordered the clones or anything like that, but because they had the superior skill.
Well, they bought them also. They paid for them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't,
I completely agree. I can't wait. I hope that's expanded upon in season 2.
I have a feeling that's going to be touched on. I really do. I hope it is. I'll be deeply disappointed if that's
I was
not
really excited
touched
when
on.
that angle came out. I said, that's pretty cool.
Because you can't make over 1 million copies of the same thing, and they're not going to be deviations. I mean, they're programmed to be more passive towards their commanders, but there's no way that all 1.7 million of them.
Don't get into that.
Right. However many there are. Whichever book you're reading at the time. But however many there are all actually going to fit to that mold. They're going to be genetic throwbacks.
There's also one clone per planet.
Right. You got the ARC troopers who are specifically told not to follow the orders because they have to think independently. And I mean, you're going to have those weird anomalies. And I think it's completely fair for those anomalies to go, hey, wait a minute. I'm a slave. I have no rights. I'm going to die in 10 to 15 years.
Well, that happens with all slaves. Somebody figures it out.
I think this stuff too. That was probably, if not my favorite episode, the top 3 of my favorite episodes because that was such a brilliant thing to do. And on the flip side of that, you have the Plo Koon episode where he's really not comfortable with any of his clones, and he's just trying to keep them all alive. Whereas other people are like, oh yeah, throw the clones out. It's cool. Let them die. And he's like, stay in the pod.
I think the great thing about it was I had a feeling that it was a clone the entire time, but I didn't know why. I couldn't figure out why a clone would do that sort of thing. And when they finally revealed it, I was like, this is something that we need to see more of.
Right.
Wendy?
Well, I think the thing is, they don't own the clones because they didn't pay for them.
Right.
They are commanding them, and most of them are doing their best to keep them alive. But in the end, they are the servants of the Republic, and they've been told, these you're going to take out, and they're your soldiers.
Right.
And so, I mean, the Jedi really are not the slave masters. That's Palpatine.
Well, I mean, he took all that Chancellor Valorum money and he went and bought some clones.
Well, no, Dooku.
What?
Dooku went and ordered the clones.
Yeah, they've always been big on where the money actually came from.
It was Sifo Dyas.
Yeah.
Well,
No,
Dooku
probably Sidious, maybe.
Yeah, Dooku had to be impersonating Sifo Dyas. Yeah.
When the clones were ordered, what the Camino said, he ordered the clones after the Jedi thought he was dead.
Right. Yeah, he ordered them about the time of Episode 1, which is about the time Chancellor Valorum lost all of his money and fell into all that crap for the political power. So it stands to reason that Palpatine took all that money that he was able to siphon out of Valorum stuff and channel it into making the clones. And again, if you don't read the books, you don't get that.
Or he managed to get the temple,
Right.
the Jedi temple, to end up paying for it.
Well, it's very possible.
The Canadians said that the Jedis were paying for it.
Right. Well, again, that's just what that's what they were told. Right. Do you think they really care where the credit funds came from? No, they just ka-ching. Yeah.
And so you have Palpatine who hated the Jedi
Yeah.
for whatever reason. So if he knows that a lot of them are going to be uncomfortable with these slaves,
It'll be a great way to corrupt a lot of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy here's had his hand up for a long time.
I want to say that the Jedi weren't the ones that ordered the clones. It was, and they weren't the ones that controlled the clones. It was the Senate and eventually the Emperor. And if anything throws that into light, Order 66 should throw that into light. The Jedi's were really the ones controlling them.
You're right, but it comes back. You're absolutely right, and I agree with you.
We are now splitting hairs and kind of
I'm gonna put the kibosh on that. I think it ultimately comes down, like I said before, you got to shit or get off the pot. The Jedi are supposed to be the goddamn superheroes of the Republic and of the Star Wars universe. They're supposed to take the moral high ground in a situation. They're supposed to be the defenders of truth and justice or whatever the fuck. So why aren't they doing something about slavery?
Yeah, and they're just as flawed as everybody
Not
else.
only are they not doing anything about it, they're utilizing these slaves as tools to fight their goddamn war. And I think that that's something that needs to be addressed.
Because they have to follow the orders of the Senate.
Yeah, it's not
Okay,
but that's
yeah, and again, we're getting a split hairs there. So, who has a non-slavery question?
Porn lady.
Wow, there. Okay, we got porn. Okay, porn lady. Porn lady. Okay.
Completely different topic. Okay.
Oh no.
Do you think the Jedi use the Force during sex?
Who would? Wait, hold on. Let's do this by show of hands. Okay. Everybody who would use the Force during sex, raise your hand.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
To get sex.
Right. To have sex. To then make them forget in case you didn't want them to find you later on. There you go. Okay?
We are.
Ask it. Totally.
I'm sorry, no, that's the dork side of the Force.
Right. That is the dork side of the Force. There's a third, more elongated, penis-shaped side of the Force, and that's where that one comes from.
Is it the dark side? Is that what you asked?
Yeah. Would they consider dark side because they're using it for their own purposes?
Yes. That might be.
Yes, absolutely. Right. And let's be fair.
Would it be dark sense if you used it for masturbation?
Wow, right? It feels like somebody completely different.
The stranger.
In 1999, I went to Las Vegas to attend a wedding of cardboard cutouts of Luke Skywalker and Marjorie Skywalker.
You about said cock tease, didn't you? Marjorie cock tease, you did.
No, I did. Timothy Zahn was there, and at the wedding, the toast I gave to Luke Skywalker was, if it don't fit, don't force it.
Oh, nice. But I mean, anything that you use the Force for selfishly, for a selfish gain is going to be a dark side.
Is masturbation I guess.
If you say, hey, I'm going to use the Force to diddle while I diddle, and they say okay, then yes, that is the light side.
But what if you use the Force to pleasure another person? That's not selfish.
That's not selfish. That's what we call a giving partner.
Exactly.
Right, I mean, dude, Star Wars all is a bunch of loopholes. The whole thing is loopholes, man.
It's like a series of loopholes connected by duct tape.
How can I fit in a new story? Ooh, look, a loophole. That's all it is.
Right here.
I mean, Anakin uses the Force to entertain Padme at the table there with a hair cutting, healing thing to get sex and everything or anything.
That's true.
So I had a question to the panel. You guys kept explaining this to me. So you were talking about the Mandalorians, you know, being gay couples and stuff. We'll go back there.
Not all of them.
Not
all of them.
Jango Fett, you know, how come he's got a son with no wife or anything? Is that?
Yeah.
Well, I know his son's a clone, but why did he choose? I know that part. Why does he choose to have a clone son? Why not a wife?
Well, because
it's ego.
It's ego. He wants a little version of
narcissism. Yeah, pure narcissism.
He gets to travel the galaxy and do all kinds of cool shit. If he gets married, man,
he may be an incestuous pedophile for all we know.
There was,
discussion on why he's got a son.
Well, I mean, let's just be completely fair. If you're talking about a guy who goes around the universe blowing stuff up, and eventually, you know, is completely, you know, ego driven, why wouldn't you want to make another copy of yourself, teach him everything you know while he's like 5, and then he becomes the ultimate like version 2.0 of you until he dies in the Sarlacc pit?
The simple answer is some guys just want sons.
Yeah, I mean, you can even look so far into say, look, who do we know better? Do we know Jango Fett better, or do we know Boba Fett better? We know Boba Fett better because Boba Fett's the cooler one. He just took all what his daddy taught him and kept on making it cooler.
But doesn't that answer the question of, if I knew then what I know now?
Would you use the Force on a lady? Yes.
Way in the back. Yes, you.
As I recall, in one of the books, it strongly implied that Luke and Mara used the Force during sex.
Yeah.
Very vague.
Sweet.
I mean, they didn't give the
I haven't read up to that point yet, so awesome. Something to look forward to.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Again, if you have the tools, why not? It's like if somebody had like a dildo and a cock ring and it's sitting right there and you're like, hey, that'd be kind of nice to use. And then you don't use it.
Well, it's like using your Kundalini energy.
Right, you know,
it's like tantric sex.
Yeah, you're doing that, or you're doing like the Kegel exercise, so I'm not going to squeeze. You know, if it's there and you got it, use it. I mean,
the Force is the ultimate Kegel muscle.
Right. Well, S&M outfits. Look at Mara Jade. She's in the freaking Avengers outfit too, right? Going back to Emma.
Well, I mean that black leather corset. Come on.
Yeah, actually, I call that the hooker outfit because she's like, oh no, Anakin, we can't. And what she's really saying is, yes, we can. Yeah, I mean, come on, you don't wear boom. And yeah, totally.
Mixed signals.
Yes. She was convicted.
The Mara Jade corset.
There you see. Thank you. Right? Mara Jade wears that to bed. Are you not going to use the Force on her? I don't think so. Okay. I don't know.
Right here?
Sure.
Right here.
I've always kind of had the opinion that the Sith must be like horny as hell. I don't know why, but
because of
Darth Maul was definitely.
To coin a phrase, Yeah. I would actually think that the Jedi are probably a little bit more horny because they're probably a little bit less oblique about trying to use the Force to get their own sexual needs off. And the Sith are probably like, bend over. And you just bend over because you're like, yes.
But the Sith are about self-gratification.
They absolutely
they may even get more action.
Well, yeah, joining the dark side of the Force is about as pretty self-indulgent, I guess, as you're going to get.
Yeah. You know that t-shirt that says, join the dark side, we got cookies? No, it should be join the dark side, we get sex.
Join the dark side, we got nookie.
We get nookie, yeah. We can do it with ourselves, people. We can do it 2 guys we never even touch. It's awesome.
We got this Japanese rubber doll that we can...
You ever heard of the Dutch rudder? Way better. Anybody who's seen the movie that I'm talking about knows exactly what it is.
Yes, I have.
Oh, yeah. Dirty old man talking to a 9-year-old boy going, I'm going to watch your growth.
Yes.
Oh, Jar Jar, he said, excited for you, Annie.
I'm holding my hand up, so I want to interject to backpedal a couple of topics. One of the things that, sidestepping the entire possible, bondage, domination, S&M thing about the whole of Master and Apprentice concept. The film canon is basically Jedi are not allowed to love, are not allowed to have attachments. That doesn't mean that they aren't allowed to have meaningful overnight relationships.
I think we've said that numerous times, yes. I think we're absolutely of that thought.
We're all on that page.
One-night stands are not above a Jedi.
Right.
You know what I was just thinking? What could be more gay than the Imperial the Imperial outfits, like on the Death Star, all the officers, they've got that Nazi sort of, very...
And that clam head guy. What can you do with that? I mean, you get real creative. And you know what I'm talking about, right? The Dark Star gunner, right? He's like, Dark Star? It's lame. The Death Star gunner. I mean, that weird helmet, dude. You put a little vibrator inside that thing.
It's got that whole Nazi...
Fetish is the word. Fetish, yes. Fetish. We can fetishize a helmet, sure.
And as far as the language thing goes, in the first panel that Sansweet, Matt Wood, and Peter Mayhew did, somebody actually did bring up the fact that the word "damn" was used in Clone Wars, and in the actual movie, the movie cut, and everybody was kind of stumped, like. This is really a serious question.
Well,
I mean, that guy actually kind of really pissed me off.
It's like okay.
And he was really, he was actually really upset about it, and
it's a word that we use all the time. I mean, it's just something that's in the common process. It's like in the very first episode of Battlestar Galactica, they say Jesus, because obviously Jesus wasn't around. 150,000 years in the past, the guy slipped. They didn't catch it in editing, and it just got in.
Oh, or it was just an adequate translation into English.
Yeah, sure, why not? It was really fallutative.
But the one thing that they didn't say that I thought would have been the perfect answer is, well, this is wartime. Interesting language happens during wartime.
Interesting language, I like that. Interesting language happens in wartime. That's a t-shirt right there, ladies and gentlemen.
They swear like fucking sailors.
Way back here.
I resemble that remark. On the religion thing, Han said, well, I'll see you in hell. In Empire Strikes Back, is there a hell in the Star Wars galaxy? How does that thing like...
Clearly, if he's going to see somebody in it. Right, I mean, if you're going to see somebody in hell, I mean, he saw Indiana Jones 4, he knows.
Doesn't Han Solo have about the most masturbatory name in Star Wars anyway?
What you do? I'm Han Solo every night. Twice on Sunday.
Not modified in the porn version of the original.
Okay, and then
we're out of time.
We're out of time? Okay. Do you want to do one more question? Oh, we can keep going. We can keep going.
There's nobody stopping us.
Do you have anywhere to go? No, I got nowhere to go. Keep going? Anybody objecting we keep going?
I'll go over and lock the fucking door.
Lock the door!
Somebody get a keg and some pizza and we're good for the night.
Shirts off, everyone.
I think it's time to ramp it up a notch. I think we need to go along the panel here. If you had to do an alien, go. Non-human. What species would you do?
Tweet like hell.
Non-human oid.
Zero the Hutt.
We all know it's Mala. I'm from the old school, from the 70s. That's where I grew up with my father. Looking at my father's porns, I like a little bit of hair, or maybe more than a little bit of hair. But it was just that apron. I don't know. Naked in an apron. It just. Don't say B, Arthur, please.
Technically not.
You started the question, so you better have the most interesting. Yes, that's why. You have.
There's a vast array of choices out there, and I've closely examined them all, and ultimately it came down to the one that shocked me the most, which was that there are Tusken Raider women. Gotta get a peek under that shit. What is that?
Must it be non-alien? Because
Must it be non-alien? Well, that's the most interesting thing to do in a Star Wars panel, right?
Yeah.
The reason I ask is because there is one. I mean, I am gay, but I don't know if it necessarily applies. But Akmena.
Okay. Ooh, you know what she said? Admiral Akbar. It's a trap. It's a trap. Every time, that would just be so awesome.
Oh, God. Hey.
Any other questions?
Wow.
There's got
your questions.
Come on, somebody has to speak the Montel.
Way back.
So what do you want as a Montel?
You, dude. That's you.
Yeah.
I was just wondering speculation of what Jabba specifically wanted to do to Ula.
Or Leia, either one, or just specifically Ula?
Ula, because she was so wanting to get away.
You saw his tongue, right?
Dude, I mean, yeah.
I think Jabba was one of those.
Just saying.
I think he was one of those, impotent people who he's getting it off on the humiliation aspect of it,
I mean, the way I look at it is, dude, Salacious Crumb was laughing way too much. You know he was in there doing something. Like Shaun was directing him oh, touch her kitty. Oh. He's like sitting there. And Salacious Crumb's bury the beak. It was bad. It was bad. Stroke the tentacle. No. I mean, that's
your fault. No offense to women.
Right.
No offense to women, but you mentioned the tongue. Why would they want to leave?
Well, okay, look, just because it's wide and fat doesn't necessarily mean he knows what he's doing with it. All right? Oh, yeah, dude, they got that KY jelly all over it, man, and she oh, no. You want that on your nether regions, dude?
You notice that his name is not Jabba the Hot.
Yeah.
He's Jabba the Slut.
I mean, dude, you notice all the women are like, no, it's sticky. No. And remember, that was in the early 80s. They weren't shaving yet either, so you're going to get that in your hair. It's just bad. Just skip it totally. That tongue would just be nasty. And I got to look up here.
Something about Mary's situation. That's some sort of something about Mary's situation.
It's totally something about Mary.
Sam Wessel from Attack of the Clones. Whatever your fancy was, just ask her.
Yeah, Sam Wessel, man.
To change into it. And
it knew how to please a man or woman.
See where things go from there.
But once you had seen the base model, her true form, can you get over that?
Oh, dude. Yeah, absolutely. All right, no problem. All right, I got a 5-second memory when it comes to hotness, and if there's hotness, no problem whatsoever.
Just put the mask back down. That does not matter.
Don't even need to see the face. Just put the mask on. Keep the mask on. Keep it on. That's just so wrong.
Another question?
My wife's like, what the hell is wrong with you?
I have a question, kind of a personal opinion of the panel and the audience. With the release of The Old Republic coming out in the somewhat future, do you think they're going to address issues like slavery and drug use and alcohol abuse, or not abuse, but drug use and alcohol use in an MMO that's playable by children? I mean, do you think they're going to have that option out there for slavery?
Yeah, I mean, it'll be there as much as it's in any MMO. I mean, if you play Fables 2, you can go and marry a woman and then kill her in your wedding bed. I mean, you can do some really sadistic stuff in there, huh? Yeah, she's right by the way, I'm dead. I mean, no problem. And I mean, I was playing a chick too, and it was fun. You get the guy to come up to the room, come on out, sweetie. I mean, this is great. So I think you would have to have it in there at some point, because you're not only aiming it at kids, you're aiming it at probably, teenagers, adults, and the adults are probably going to want to screw around with that a little bit. There's probably not going to be a whole mini game about it, but absolutely I think there will be, some cutscenes that'll be okay, we got to go to the refresher, et cetera, stuff like that.
Plus, all that shit that you click past when you install the game is saying, that you're agreeing to, all the conditions of the game and that there's going to be whatever in there, so.
But let's be completely fair. When you see that trailer for, Old Republic, are you thinking, I wonder if they're going to have sex and drugs? No, you're thinking lightsaber battle.
Well, we could get into lightsaber battles.
Yeah, lightsaber battles. That goes all Spaceballs on. It's see, yours is as big as mine. And then Darth Maul goes, suck it.
God damn Mel Brooks.
Right here, dude.
I just got a thought. You gotta wonder how much the Wampa, Luke was hanging upside down in a little cave, black eye. All you did was just see him knock him out.
Well, the Wampa's a little bit of an S&M guy, right? Smacking Luke around a little bit.
Well, what about Han's Tauntaun line? These things smell worse on the inside than.
And then he put Luke inside the Tauntaun.
Tuck you right in here.
On the Wampa thing, though, one thing that's always bugged me about the Wampa thing, I've always had this, many things, but one thing I've always envisioned in my head is a scene where he's got Luke precariously balanced on his back, somehow with Luke's feet in the air, and he's just standing there going, fucking ice, Jesus, waiting for it to harden. How did he get Luke to hang from the ceiling?
Well, we don't see he's got a hose back there, and he's just spraying him down. He's got a little rig going on.
It may not be ice, since we're in the adult thing. Thank you.
It freezes 5 times faster than water, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you and good night.
You have succeeded in grossing out the audience.
You know, but I mean, I see a show of hands from everybody who wishes he wasn't here. Who wishes he wasn't here, right? I don't know. He just brought up wampachism.
I didn't see that in the program.
Next year in the wampachism. I'm going to wampachism.
That's a band name right there. Somebody get a
copyright this shit. Hey, I want a credit.
Mine. Actually, it's his.
No. I give that one freely to the Star Wars fans. You can take it, my children, and go forth and use wampachism everywhere. Public. I just said use wampachism everywhere.
It's like duct tape in the Star Wars universe. It binds everything, you know?
Oh, my God. Oh, well, wait. Since we're talking Empire, that just totally brings up the scene where R2 and C-3PO are having the argument about trying to dry off all of Leia's clothes. And he goes, oh, it's supposed to be cold in there. No, don't turn up the heat. And everything gets hot and steamy, and then all of her clothes are moistened.
Yes.
That's fucked up. Dude, George Lucas was a pervert, man. It's like... Did we wear everybody out with questions? Anybody else?
No, I'm still stuck on wampachism.
Are we still stuck on wampachism? Do you want me
moment to process,
yes. Should we tell a story? Oh, yeah,
here we go.
Nobody brought this up, and I wasn't sure if it was.
We were waiting for you, honey.
Yeah, everybody's waiting on me. But there seems to be a sort of, I don't even say underlying, because it's not really underlying, it's pretty obvious. The whole BDSM, domination, submission thing in the Star Wars universe.
Yes.
It's pretty rampant. I was just wondering if anybody kind of, gets off on that.
Gets off on that too?
Go do an image search for Star Wars porn and you'll get some Gamorrean guards holding down Leia, and it's very strange. People spend a lot. They're very nicely drawn. Somebody spent a lot of time and effort and thought on that. So you got.
Has he actually Googled that? Have you Googled that, sir?
Yes, I have.
Do you bring the photos with you?
You know, I didn't. I took it.
See, we get to a really interesting topic and we don't have photos to back it up.
Just give me your email address, whoever wants it, and I'll mail them off to you. I got a whole folder full.
The bondage thing, it really is kind of weird that, there's so much stuff. We got the slavery thing going on, obviously. We're talking about the bondism. The bondage is right next door to it. Okay, since we're not going to have clones in this episode, let's put, Carrie Fisher in a chain and have her get smacked around by Hutt a little bit. And we're going to feed the other one to the Sarlacc. George Lucas's universe is not very female-friendly. It's not really male-friendly either, but it's really mean on the females. I mean, it's kind of... So I absolutely think that, whether he meant to put it in there obliquely or not, I mean, it's in there subconsciously. George Lucas just has some funny kinks.
It's a fairy tale.
Yeah.
It's a fairy tale.
Fairy tale with bondage.
Fairy tales have lots of...
The bondage fairies. There you go.
Well, hey.
Fairy tales are not female-friendly.
Rasputin, Rapunzel.
Right. Yeah, Rapunzel and that hair. Back to wampachism. Of course, at the time of the clones, we had Obi-Wan spinning up in that electronic device. So there was a little bit of...
Oh, yes, we did.
Lick my nipples. Yeah. Wow. Attack of the Clones has some good stuff in it. See, I want to go home and watch Star Wars with a whole new light now, man. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great.
You're going to be watching it the way I've always watched it.
Welcome
to my world.
Yeah. Okay, his hand's not up anymore. Let's go ahead and go with you, sir, in the Batman.
Now, it's been talked about that some of the rebel pilots, before they were rebels, were smugglers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they still hooked up with their old smuggling buddies, which mean they were smuggling spice, a.k.a. drugs,
to
finance the Rebel Alliance.
Mm-hmm.
But it is, these are supposed to be the good guys, and they're using drug money.
Well, yeah, that touches on Kevin Smith territory. I think if anybody's seen Clerks, where he's talking about them blowing up the Death Star, and that there's
and the
probably
union workers.
Yeah, exactly.
Any side. War, whatever side you're on, it's a pretty subjective thing. So, you could. Any two sides fighting a war, you can find something shady going on. There's just no pure good
I mean, we have a grand and glorious history of that ourselves with the CIA funding Black Ops.
Oh, we're doing stuff like that right now. We're the good guys.
Yeah, we're the good guys.
This really goes into something that you and I talked about in an early Star Wars episode on the show was, this whole idea that I find a little bit absurd that here's a system, corrupt though it may be. The Empire was a system that basically ran the galaxy, right? You had the elected leader, you had an established system that was going on. Suddenly these guys sail in, you got Luke and Han and Leia, they blow up the Death Star, and then over the course of time they establish themselves as the new leadership. Is there not somebody on some planet going somewhere going, well, who the fuck are these guys?
Are they going to make the trains run on time?
Why did they get to take over? Simply because they blew the station up? That makes no sense.
It's the Imperial remnant. All the Imperial worlds that decided not to join, they just became the remnant, and then they became the Empire, and then they became the Empire again.
How are you rebels if you already were in power and got kicked out?
Yeah, once they're rebelling out. Yeah, they're trying to get their youth again. They were hitting like 45, and they were feeling old across the
government then.
Yeah, it really. It just depends on where you're looking at it from.
For the Republic. Just like reality.
Yeah, it really. It's all spin. It's all spin. And we're getting way from the back of that. We got a minute. So, do we have enough time for one more question? Okay, we got one more question. Make it a whoopie. Make it a Whopper. Obviously not time.
Right here in the white shirt, this dude had a question. Your arm's going to kill you tomorrow. Did your question get addressed, sir?
Yeah, pretty much.
Awesome.
It was on the S&M topic.
I have a question for you all. Did you have a good time? Yeah. That's what I wanted to hear.
Cool.
Remember, the takeaway message is wampagism.
Yeah, the takeaway message is wampagism. It's Zero the Hutt.
You can hear
primetime show.
You can hear Chris and I on the first Monday of every month on the Two True Freaks podcast talking Star Wars pretty much the same fucking way.
You can't find me anywhere, but if you look hard enough, you'll find me. So, and you can find me on the net.
Do you have a live channel? Yeah. Is LJ?
I have Facebook. I don't really post anything.
We don't Twitter either. We're technically challenged. Yes.
Randy would actually try to
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to block you, dude. You should have said something.
I actually have a website.
I'm getting awesome, man. I feel like I was a tipsy, man.
Qualified to be out.
Yeah, I know. Shit, why you should come out, man?
Yeah,
it's a job. Nice to talk. Oh, sure. Yeah.
We might even still have a little flyers up there too.
So I'm actually put it
Can you read that, dude? I'm seriously playing Buzz. Can you read